Welcome to the deep dive. We're kicking things off today with something pretty interesting, actually.
Yeah. What do we got?
It's a deep dive into sports prediction. We've got this report from an AI called SmartBet AI,
Okay. SmartBet AI?
and it's predicting a soccer match. Houston Dynamo versus Seattle Sounders FC.
Right. MLS action. When's the game?
May 10th, 2025. It's at Shell Energy Stadium in Houston. Weather looks, well, pretty decent clear. Light wind, maybe 66 degrees Fahrenheit.
Okay, good conditions.
Yeah.
But the interesting part isn't the weather forecast, I assume.
Exactly. The real value here, for you listening, is understanding how these modern sports predictions actually work.
Right. It's not just a coin flip. There's some serious number crunching and modeling involved.
Totally. And we're going to unpack the methods SmartBet AI uses.
So what's our source material for this?
It's a match analysis report from the Gambler's Ruin project, powered by the SmartBet AI. We're looking at their MLS League model, version 4.0.3 specifically.
Gotcha. Version 4.0.3. And our mission?
Is basically to figure out how this AI thinks, and see what it predicts for this Houston-Seattle clash.
All right, sounds like a plan. So where do we start? What's the AI's basic approach?
Well, the report says it's a hybrid system. It uses a mix of things.
Okay, like what?
Starts with something called Poisson regression for goals.
Poisson. Yeah, that makes sense for predicting counts like goals scored.
And then it throws in machine learning classifiers.
Okay, the ML stuff. Which ones?
It mentions random forest, gradient boosting, specifically XGBoost, and a multilayer perceptron, or MLP.
Wow, okay. So Poisson for the likely scores, and then these different ML models to predict the actual outcome, win, lose, or draw.
Seems like it. Let's talk about that Poisson thing first. Digging into the numbers, like you said,
Yeah.
How does that work for this match?
Well, Poisson regression estimates the average number of goals each team might score based on past data, opponent strength, stuff like that.
Right.
For this game, it predicts Houston gets about 2.0 goals on average.
2.10.
Okay.
And Seattle.
Seattle's predicted a bit lower, around 1.25 goals.
Interesting. So advantage Houston based purely on that expected goal rate.
Seems so. But they don't just stop at the average. They do something called bootstrapped Poisson regression.
Bootstrapped? What's that ad?
It's like running the simulation loads of times here, 1,000 times with small variations. It gives a better sense of the range of possibilities.
Okay, so it accounts for some randomness.
Exactly. So with 95% confidence, they predict Houston scoring between 0 and 5 goals.
0 and 5, that's quite a range.
It is, but soccer can be unpredictable. For Seattle, the range is 0 to 4 goals.
Okay, so that gives us a probabilistic view of the score lines. What else does the AI look at? You mentioned other methods.
Right. Next up, they use dynamic ELO ratings.
The ELO ratings, like in chess.
Kind of, yeah. Same
Yeah.
principle. It measures team strength, but it's dynamic, meaning it changes after every single match.
How does it change?
Based on the result, obviously, but also who you played. Beating a strong team boosts your rating more than beating a weak one, and vice versa for losing.
Makes sense. So what are the ELO ratings for Houston and Seattle here?
Houston's sitting at 1,505.25.
Okay.
And Seattle is slightly higher, 1,527.26.
So ELO actually gives Seattle a slight edge, unlike the Poisson goal prediction.
Precisely. Based purely on this metric, yeah, Seattle looks a tiny bit stronger overall.
The report mentions a K-factor and a base rating of 1,500 too. Quick explanation.
Sure, 1,500 is just the starting point, like the average rating when the system begins. The K-factor that controls how much the rating changes after each game. A higher K means recent results have more impact.
Got it. So it tunes how volatile the ratings are. Okay, ELO ratings checked. What about the machine learning models? First one was random forest.
Yeah, random forest. Think of it like asking a whole crowd of experts, but the experts are decision trees.
Decision trees.
Yeah, like flowcharts for making predictions based on the data. Random forest builds lots of different trees, each looking at the data slightly differently, and then it combines their votes, basically.
Like wisdom of the crowd, but with algorithms.
Exactly. And interestingly, for this match, the random forest predicts an away win for Seattle.
Oh, okay. So Poisson leaned Houston, ELO leaned Seattle slightly, random forest leans Seattle. This is getting complicated.
It is. That's why they use multiple methods. The report also gives performance metrics like precision, recall, F1 score.
Right. What do those tell us about the random forest prediction? For the away win.
So for the away win, the F1 score, which kind of balances precision and recall, is 0.57.
0.57, is that good?
It's okay for this kind of prediction. Soccer is hard to predict perfectly. Precision is 0.53, recall is 0.61. It means when it predicts an away win, it's right about 53% of the time, and it catches about 61% of the actual away wins.
Okay, so not stellar, but it shows some predictive power.
Yeah, and the scores for predicting draws and home wins are in a similar sort of range. It's about context.
Fair enough. Next model, XGBoost, gradient boosting. How's that different from random forest?
It also uses decision trees, but it builds them sequentially. Each new tree tries to fix the errors the previous ones made. It's like learning from mistakes, step by step.
Oh, interesting, like refining the prediction over time.
Exactly. It's often considered a very powerful technique. And guess what XGBoost predicts?
Let me guess. Seattle again?
You got it. Another prediction for an away win.
Okay, so that's two models pointing to Seattle. How do its performance scores look? Better than random forest?
Slightly, yeah. For the away win prediction, the F1 score is 0.61, a bit higher. Precision 0.58, recall 0.66. So maybe a little more confident in that Seattle prediction.
Right. Okay, two for Seattle. But there was a third one, the MLP neural network. That sounds fancy.
It is. MLP stands for multi-layer perceptron. It's a type of deep learning model, sort of inspired by the brain's structure.
Wow, okay.
It uses layers of interconnected nodes to find really complex patterns in the data, stuff the other models might miss.
And its prediction, don't tell me, Seattle again.
Yeah, plot twist. The MLP predicts a home win for Houston.
Really? Okay, so the deep learning model goes against the other two tree-based models. Why the difference, do you think?
Hard to say for sure without seeing inside the black box, but MLPs can sometimes pick up on nonlinear relationships or interactions in the data that tree models might simplify. Maybe it sees something specific about Houston's home advantage or recent form patterns.
Interesting. And its performance?
Its scores are a bit different. For the home win it predicts, the recall is quite high, 0.77, meaning it's good at spotting when Houston does win. But the precision is lower, 0.46.
So it identifies most Houston wins, but also predicts some that don't happen.
Kind of, yeah. And its ability to predict draws is not great based on these scores, though precision is weirdly high there. It's a trade-off.
Okay, so now we have a split decision. Random Forest and XGBoost say Seattle, MLP says Houston. How does the AI resolve this?
Good question. That's where the stacked ensemble method comes in.
Stacked ensemble. What's that do?
It's like a meta model. It takes the predictions from the base models, the random forest, XGBoost, MLP, maybe others implicitly, and learns how to best combine them. It figures out which models to trust more under which conditions.
Ah, so it weighs their opinions.
Essentially, yes. It learns from the predictions themselves to make a final, hopefully more robust prediction.
And the result from a stacked ensemble is...
A home win for Houston.
Whoa! Okay, so the combined approach flips it back towards Houston. That's significant.
It is. It suggests that maybe the MLP signal, combined perhaps with other factors we haven't explicitly discussed from the base models, outweighs the two simpler tree models in the ensemble's view.
How are its scores, the ensembles?
Pretty decent, actually.
Huh.
The F1 score for predicting a home win is 0.62. Same score for predicting an away win, interestingly. Recall for the home win is strong at 0.76.
Okay, so the ensemble seems reasonably balanced and leans towards Houston. But wait, there's another method mentioned, Monte Carlo simulation.
Right. They cover all the bases. Monte Carlo is different again.
How so?
It doesn't directly use the ML classifiers. Instead, it goes back to those initial Poisson goal predictions, the 2.2 in for Houston, 1.25 for Seattle. And it simulates the match thousands of times, like 10,000 times here, using those goal rates as probabilities.
So it's like playing the game virtually over and over.
Exactly. And then you just count how many times each outcome happens in those simulations.
Clever. What did the 10,000 simulations show? What were the most common scores?
The top scoreline predicted was 2-1 for Houston. That happened in about 9.38% of the simulations.
Okay, 2-1 Houston. What else?
Next, most likely was a 1-1 draw at 9.06%. And then a 2-0 Houston win at 8.23%.
So the most likely individual scores favor Houston or a draw. What about the overall win-draw loss probabilities from the simulation?
That's where it gets really clear. Across all 10,000 simulations, Houston wins 57.15% of the time.
57%, that's quite strong.
It is. A draw happens about 20.89% of the time.
Okay.
And Seattle wins only 21.96% of the time in these simulations.
Wow. So the Monte Carlo simulation strongly backs the stacked ensemble's prediction of a Houston win.
It really does. You have two quite different sophisticated methods. The ensemble learning and the mass simulation both pointing significantly towards a home victory. That convergence is powerful.
Definitely seems to override those earlier signals from random forest and XGBoost. Now, does the AI consider real-world stuff like injuries?
Absolutely. The report mentions it factors in the injury count for each team.
And who's out for this match?
For Houston, Andrew Tarbell, the goalie, Lawrence Anali, a forward, and Nelson Quinones, another forward. Injuries listed are like cruciate ligament and knee. No return date specified.
Okay, 3 players out for Houston and Seattle.
Just one listed. Paul Arriola, a forward, also with a cruciate ligament injury, no return date.
So Houston has more players out. Does the AI just count them, or does it know who is out?
The report implies it factors in the count, which is a common approach. Quantifying the impact of specific player absences is much harder, though more advanced models might try. But yes, injuries are definitely part of the calculation.
Got it. And it looks at other things too, right? Like form, home advantage.
Yeah, a whole bunch of contextual factors.
Right.
Recent form, measured by points per game, PPG. Expected goals, XG, which measures chance quality. The well-known home-away advantage effect. Goal efficiency, how good teams are at converting chances.
So it's building a really comprehensive picture.
It tries to. It even mentions looking at market betting odds, presumably as another input or maybe a baseline to compare against.
And they use data cleaning techniques too. Fuzzy matching.
Right, fuzzy matching and Unicode normalization. That's crucial for making sure data from different sources, team names, player names, are consistent and accurate. Garbage in, garbage out otherwise.
Makes sense. So putting it all together, it's quite a complex system.
It really is. And what's fascinating, as we saw, is that different parts of this system can give different initial answers.
Yeah, the random forest and XGBoost saying Seattle, but the MLP, the ensemble, and the Monte Carlo all pointing pretty strongly towards Houston in the end.
And that highlights the challenge, but also the sophistication. It's not one simple answer. The AI weighs different perspectives.
So the key takeaway for you listening is that SmartBet AI uses this really layered approach. It's got stats, dynamic ratings, different kinds of machine learning simulations, the works.
Yeah. And for this specific Houston-Seattle game on May 10th, while some individual models lean towards Seattle, the big picture from the stacked ensemble and the massive Monte Carlo simulation points towards a Houston home win.
But, and this is important, it's still a forecast based on probabilities, right? Not a crystal ball.
Absolutely. The report itself has a disclaimer. It's for informational purposes only. No guarantees in sports.
Definitely not betting advice.
No. But thinking about this whole process, it really makes you consider how blending these different techniques, old school stats, newer machine learning simulation, is changing things. Well, it's transforming how we understand and try to predict really complex events, like a soccer match. But you have to wonder what other fields could use this kind of hybrid approach. Where else could combining statistics, ML, and simulation lead to, much deeper insights?
That's a really interesting thought to leave people with. Beyond sports, where else could this apply? Economics, climate modeling, public health?
Potentially all of those and more. It's definitely something we're thinking about.